So as we started to work together, we began to develop a method that we actually ended up stumbling upon as we began to really explore each other's maps alongside teaching these skills to our students at the D School. And there was one particular conversation that I remember so well where this all started to make sense to both of us. And I had called Yuri up to really process something that had happened as I was working with someone who was in a lot of distress, and I was just trying to listen to her with empathy. And one of the things that I noticed as I was listening to this person was that I didn't actually have to know where we were going. I just had to be really, really present to what she was saying, moment to moment, and just capture the sort of heart of what I thought I heard and ask her if I had understood. And as we went back and forth in this dialogue, I started to notice that more and more insights were coming up for her that took her deeper into an understanding of herself that neither of us could have anticipated at the beginning of the conversation. And so it was this incredible feeling for me that what I had to do is actually decenter myself and ask myself, who is the listening for? And if the listening was for her, then she had to direct the process and I would just facilitate her inquiry into her own experience. And so I was processing this with Yuri, and I was saying, I think what's happening is that the insights are emerging in the dialogue between the two of us. And so there was some kind of co-creation happening where we were getting into sort of what Carl Rogers describes as the flow of a person's experience, the moment-to-moment unfolding of insights and understanding. And that was an aha moment for me because it was a moment in which I really started to understand how deep empathy is actually a way in which you recognize the other person's capacity to understand themselves, and what you do is actually support that process of understanding. And I was describing this to Yuri, and I asked him, how does it work with design, and how does co-creation work with design? And he said to me, I actually don't really like the word co-creation in the way that it's used frequently in the design world. And I was confused by that, and I asked him, why did you say that? And so he picked up a pen and he told me, the way it's usually used in the design world is that you do some interviews, you ask people questions, you try to get an understanding of what something that's not working in their lives that they need a solution for. And then you bring your expertise and you come up with something, like the pen. And you say, I designed this for you. Do you want the cap on this side or do you want the cap on this side? And the person has these two choices and they're just like, well, I suppose I want the cap on this side, because it doesn't really matter to them which side the cap goes on, because they don't have a stake and a sense of agency in the process. So he said that's the way co-creation is talked about usually in the design world, and it very often doesn't work. The person ends up feeling disconnected from the thing you make for them. And so I followed this up by saying, so when it does work, what is going on? And he said something that I was very moved by, and he said, the thing that you do as a designer is that you put your expertise aside and you spend a long time getting to know the person that you're designing for. You understand where they're coming from, you get to know them, you get to like really deeply explore their world, and co-creation starts in that exploration. That it is not something that happens with you and your technical skills, but it's really in dialogue with the other person, that you listen and then you also bring the things that are exciting for you as a designer into it. And in that interaction, something magical happens. And you bring your expertise and your technical skills to create something very specifically tailor-made for them. And that is what real co-creation feels like. And in that moment, for me, everything clicked, because I realized why it was that people were getting stuck in moving from needs to solutions, that something was being missed in the collaborative energy. And so that's when it all came together for me, for the collaboration between us, and the process that we began to build together.